Yes. Welcome, everyone. Happy Earth Day. Today is a continuation of a special meeting that started yesterday on budget hearings. And tonight's meeting is in hybrid format with council, presenters, and public participation in person or on Zoom. Attendees can participate virtually by computer or other device. Phone lines are also available. Public comment will be accepted at the beginning of today's meeting on topics that are not on tonight's agenda or last night's agenda. Comments on agenda items will be taken when that item is discussed during the meeting. During public comment, Ms. Madison will look for virtual attendees that use the raise your hand feature on Zoom or *9 on the phone line. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or as otherwise directed, and state your name before making comments. Virtual commenters should include their name on Zoom so that they can be properly addressed. Commenters comments should be addressed to the chair and should be focused on topics, not individuals. Our goal is to complete tonight's meeting no later than 10 p.m. So let the record show that we have all 7 counselors present in chambers. And and we can do the Pledge of Allegiance, I suppose. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, if y'all are willing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, that brings us then to public comment. Again, this section of the agenda is for comments that are from the public that are not on tonight's agenda. Do any members of the public present in chambers wish to make a comment now? I don't see anyone. Ms. Madison, is there anyone online that would like to make a comment?
If you'd like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Alrighty, thank you. So last night, we finished with the Community Services Department, and tonight we're going to start with the County Assessor. Is the County Assessor present? All right, come on up and
Council Chair, member of the councils, thank you for having me once again. One of the nice things about presenting the property valuation fund before the budget is you become familiar with the operations of our office. So I won't take too much time tonight, just go over a few things. 2025 was a very successful year for the County Assessor's Office. Our CAMA system successfully met IAAO standards for sales ratio studies using our automated valuation models. Our automated valuation models are recognized as industry leading and cutting edge. The Los Alamos County Assessor undergoes an annual evaluation by the New Mexico Property Tax Division to assess its function and to identify potential improvements. The office has been commended for its excellence in enforcing the New Mexico Property Tax Code and maintaining high operational standards. Notably, Los Alamos is one of the few counties that does not require a corrective action plan. Last year, we continued to introduce electronic notice of values, an eco-friendly, convenient, and user-friendly service for property owners to access their notice of valuation. This allows property owners to access their NOVs for the current year and previous years. Notice of values are annually mailed April 1st, except for this year. This year we had a 30-day extension due to the legislation on the veterans exemptions, but we will be mailing out April 30th this year. The Los Alamos County Assessor's Office actively engaged in community events, including the Fair and Rodeo, Farmers Market, County Customer Appreciation Day, and National Assessors Day. We also proudly collaborate with the New Mexico Department of Veteran Services to serve our veterans here in Los Alamos County. Our 2026 proposed budget will assure the functions and responsibilities of the county assessor are met in accordance with property tax code. This year, the general fund experienced a slight increase, and this is attributed to salaries, employee benefits, and inter-fund services. The property valuation fund, which is our other one, had experienced a decrease, and this was due to salaries and employee benefits. I'll stand for any questions on our budget.
Do any county councilors have questions?
All
I'm
right.
going to go ahead and put the budget back up, if you don't mind. Just so you all have it in front of you. Any questions from counselors? Are there any public comments on this item? Anyone online that would like to comment?
If you'd like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
All right. Now, is there a counselor willing to make a motion? Now we need the motion.
I move that council tentatively approve the proposed budget for the county assessor in the amount of $1,041,212. $1,041,212.
Thank you, Counselor Neil Clinton. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion by Counselor Neil Clinton and a second by Counselor Haveman. Any discussion on this? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Hand,
Yes.
Counselor Wrighty,
Yes.
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Counselor Rigor,
Yes.
Counselor Haveman,
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, let the record show the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate your presentation and your time. All right, County Clerk is next. Mr. Redondo.
Chair Call, councilors, thank you for having me here tonight. So as you all probably know, the county clerk's office does a number of things. Most visible is the fact that we are responsible for administering the elections. We also support the council in their meetings and production of minutes. We are responsible for recordings and issuance of marriage license, and we are also the clerk of the probate court. So we support the probate court and their actions. If I can have the next slide, please. So we've largely adhered to the guidance, limiting our increases to the 3%. I want to, I'll tell you, there was one thing that I did not adhere to the guidance on, and that is my budget option, and we'll get to that. The only exceptions, the other exceptions are a large jump in our temporary casual wages, the training budget, and then some IDCs. The IDCs are mainly in relation to the previous acquisition of the mobile voting unit. There is an extra insurance cost in that has increased our interdepartmental charges. Their increase in temporary staffing accounts for primarily the fact that employment of poll workers is related to the fact that our fiscal year starts in July, as you know, and in the previous year there was only one election, the general election. In this upcoming fiscal year there will be two elections, the regular local election, which is our school board elections, and then the upcoming primary election for the midterms. So there's a large jump there that is in large part due to the fact that we've got 2 elections instead of the 1 in the previous year. Next slide, please. So an amendment to state statute recently in 2023 also increased our the daily rate for election workers. That is another reason it has ramped up as fast as it has. I will point out, so in 2018, the Election Science Reform Administration Conference put out a paper putting an estimated cost of $8 per voter. And with the number of voters we have, our costs are actually significantly below that. So I just want to point out that we're doing better than the rest of the most of the country as far as a cost per voter in our elections. Next slide, please. So our requested wages, we're looking at around, so the primary cost of running an election is wages and poll workers. We're looking at around 100,000, 106,000 or 107,000 for the school board election, and then a little more for the primary election. This represents the turnout, the expected turnout. We can reduce the number of poll workers when there is a lower turnout. So we're trying to kind of walk that line of having enough poll workers. I will point out that the majority of, and we'll go to the next slide because I'm getting ahead of myself. The majority of the election costs actually get reimbursed by the state. I kind of wish that we did better accounting of this because it goes into the general fund, the reimbursement, rather than us having a separate fund for elections that gets reimbursed. So I just want you to be aware that these increases that we're asking for are in many ways offset by the memorandum of understanding we have with the New Mexico Secretary of State's office. I will give you another quick number that isn't on this slide, but our previous election, the 2024 general election, our MOU was for $115,204, and we were reimbursed $101,033 or $322 of that. So the gross majority of our elections costs do get reimbursed by the state. Next slide, please. The recent implementation of the records management system digitized a significant volume of microfiche. This was finalized in August of last year. However, that did not include indexing and redaction of these documents. A large chunk of our documents is about 144,000 documents that we have that are not properly indexed, making it difficult for the public and members of our staff to find documents when asked. So this is what will come to the budget request, the optional budget request. I put that in here not because I think it's necessary, but because I wanted to inform the council about this issue and get some guidance from them. Because the question I have is, should we put out an RFP and ask for this to be done outside, which will, an outside company will probably cost us $250,000, $300,000 to do the indexing for us, or we can do it in-house. I have already started on with our staff on working on doing it in-house. It is a large volume of indexing. At the current rate we're going, I'm expecting it to take between 5 and 10 years, probably closer to the 10-year period. I don't necessarily think it's urgent, but I just want you to be aware that it will take us this long if we do it in-house. And that's why I put this budget option in there, just to make sure that I was able to have this conversation with you and let you guys know that this is an issue we're facing, and some guidance on that would be helpful. So again, to keep costs manageable, I hope to leverage our deputy clerk casual employees. We are currently, so I was one of the casuals for the first 6 months of the fiscal year in which we are in. That position has not been rehired. I wanted to wait and balance, because that position is sometimes used to balance some of our other poll worker costs when they're unexpected. For example, I didn't in this current budget. We didn't budget in using the mobile voting unit in the RLE or the primary, because I was asked to keep our numbers low. So we could conceivably use one of those deputy clerk casual positions, not hire it, and that amount of money would be enough to utilize the mobile voting unit instead. So it's a little bit of a buffer. We're hoping to have that. Next slide, please. Just some of our accomplishments. New Mexico has been ranked consistently as one of the best performing states as far as elections go. Los Alamos had the highest percentage of voter turnout in the state in the general election, with a turnout of 75.3%, which I think is a significant accomplishment. We did introduce the use of the mobile voting unit, and I hope to be able to we'll see. My hope is that we don't have an emergency where its use is required, but it is something that I'm glad that we have. We also conducted a state mandated recount, and that's another issue as far as the buffer that we want to have for poll workers, is ensuring that if a recount occurs, we want to be able to cover those costs. Next slide, please. We also have worked with the county IM staff to utilize the Los Alamos Now app. I've been told that was a success, and we're hoping to continue to do that. And then again, we've integrated the microfiche into the software, and are currently they are searchable only by document number, book and page, and that's all. So that's where the indexing becomes important. We're still, for those older documents, we still have to go to the images of the old index books, which are, you basically have to page through pages and pages of books to find things. So it's a little less simple than a quick document search. And then next slide, please. Here are numbers. The proposed budget is slightly higher, but again, the gross majority of that comes from the fact that we have 2 elections rather than 1. And then next slide. Here's our budget option. I put that there because I want to have the opportunity to let you know that there is this issue with indexing. It is not something I don't think is urgent, but I do want you to be aware that issue is there. We will, if you do not pass this budget option, we will continue to attempt to work on that in-house. But again, I think it may take 10 years at the current rate. That being said, I'm hopeful that with advances in AI and other options, the price of doing that may actually come down significantly in the near future if we can do a first run through with AI to do that and not have to do a hand tally or hand data entry, which is how it has to be done at the moment. With that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there questions from councilors? Councilor Weaver?
Thank you, Chair. So what are the 2 elections? I thought we have one this year.
So we have the regular local election, which would be
Yeah.
the school board and UNMLA board election. And then the primary for the midterms will be in June, which will be at the end of this upcoming fiscal year.
Oh, so it'll fall in next, okay. So the first part of the 26 election falls
Yes.
in this year. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Any other questions from, yes, Councilor Neil Clinton?
I do have a quick question regarding the reimbursements from the state. What would we have to do to be more meticulous in that accounting?
That's a good question. I would possibly suggest that our budget professionals answer that. I know we've worked a little bit on it. It's basically just putting it in a different bucket and making sure, part of the problem is the timing of those reimbursements are kind of, they vary based on things that are happening at the state. The reimbursements aren't always full because of the way that there's a system they use, and there is a cap to the amount they can reimburse. So they sometimes don't reimburse the full amount for all of the counties. The algorithm they use to decide how much goes is kind of arcane. I don't understand it very well, but I think it's just a matter of making sure that we do a better job of keeping track of it. It just hasn't been, the way we've been doing it. They send it, it goes into the general fund. And then when we spend for an election, we spend out of the general fund. So I would just prefer that we have some tracking so that it's clear this money is not really coming from the general fund. I don't know if you would like to answer further.
Madam Chair, Councilor Neil Clinton, we've actually met with their staff, and our grant manager set up a project code. So for the upcoming elections, because it was a concern of the clerk's office, so we want to assist them in a clearer tracking mechanism. So before they get started next time, they'll be able to attach that, and so there's a clear tracking mechanism. We'll treat it like a project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. One other quick question regarding the indexing. Is that because of the IPRA requests that have been coming in lately, you need to find a better way to find these documents?
So technically, these documents are all public record, and they are not subject to IPRA the same way other government documents are, because, well, that's not true. They are subject to inspection. Because we have them online, available online, they don't necessarily, if they're searchable online, we don't have to provide them the same way a regular IPRA request would be provided. The fact that they're really hard to find kind of means that we need to respond to IPRA requests when someone asks them, because they're not easy to find. So once we have them properly indexed, we will be able to spend less time in requests for these documents. We'll be able to say, oh, those documents are online, they're on our searchable database. We can point people to the website, and they will be able to search for them themselves and use that system to get the documents, which should theoretically reduce the amount of staff time responding to requests for those documents. By not having them, it means we have to spend time searching for those. We also internally, we just had a request for a document from I think 1994, and we've been struggling to find it because it's in one of those historical documents that have not been indexed. And so it's a lot of staff time to find these things. Once we find them,
In the catalog.
if it's been, so we're indexing basically two ways. We're indexing from the start to the finish, and as they come up. So if someone requests a document and it comes up, we will index it then so that it's available going forward. Because if it's a document that's been requested once, there's a high probability that it will be requested again. Some of these documents are not likely to be requested at all. We're talking about, in some cases, mortgages from, 1965, like that is not super likely. But you never know when one of these things will come up and someone will be looking for it. So we want to have in the for maximum transparency and ease of interaction, we want to have these documents indexed. So it's a balance. Ideally, I would like to see them all indexed instantly. It would be very helpful for us. But the cost for it, so the $250,000 I suggested, I don't know if that would be enough at this point. We had an RFP out. One of the responders to it suggested they would do it for I think 1.5 cents per keystroke, which comes out to about $1 million if you do the napkin math. So that was probably the high bid. We ended up not going with any of them and postponing it in part because I wanted to have this conversation.
So when you say keystroke, do you mean actual keystrokes, or, so when I'm thinking about a document, you're indexing it, if it's, you can't find it now, would the process be to take the document and then to actually go through each, or all of the information in the document in order to recreate it?
So currently, as we go, if we will pull up a document, there are a number of things that we have to index by. So at a minimum, they have to be indexed by grantor, grantee, and legal description if there's a property description. So, for example, in a deed, if I have a deed that transfers my house to Joe, I would be the grantor, so I need to list my name. Joe is the grantee, so we list Joe's name, and then the legal description of the property. There are a few other fields that we're also adding as well. These documents need to be checked for the document type, because we list, if it's a mortgage or a deed or a lien. So that needs to be entered. We need to enter the recording date that's on the document. That needs to be entered. And then there are, for some of the rarer documents, there's some other fields that go, but mostly it's just grantor, grantee, and a legal description. For something simple like a deed, if you have a married couple selling it to another married couple, that's 4 names and then a legal description, and then a date and deed. So maybe 50 characters. For a big transaction, for a commercial transaction that has 100 lots, it may be 1,000 characters or more. And then there's also redaction. We do have some documents that do require personal information to be redacted, social security numbers, dates of birth, that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Hebman?
Thank you. Thank you, Clerk Redondo. How many requests do you receive on average per month, would you say? Ballpark, just
For
10, 100?
For documents or for
Any of these
Chair Call,
records that you might
Councilor
want to have indexed?
Chair Call, Councilor Haveman. It's hard to say. So for the historical ones, it's not a huge number, but we do consistently get 1 or 2 a day. In some cases, some days there's none. But if I had to guess, I would say 4 or 5 a week.
Okay, so 20 a month or something. And are these from just citizens? Are they from the title companies? Are they both?
Chair Cole, Councilor Haveman, it can be all sorts of people who are asking for these things. A lot of them are citizens who want they misplaced their deed. They want a copy of their deed. There are I had someone come in today who was looking for a power of attorney. Who their brother had a power of attorney for their sister years ago, and they were looking for it. So there's things like that. Mostly the title companies, they pay for images, and they have the images themselves and usually search there first. So it's not title companies so much as that, but we also get requests from potential investors who are looking to do a development. This is, if you want to see increased development in your metropolitan redevelopment district, someone very likely is going to want to look at, who owns things and are there easements and those kinds of requests come to us.
Is the main downside of not having this already indexed the fact that maybe a requester has to wait longer to receive what they're asking for, and then staff time has to be pulled away from something to work on that? So then there's an opportunity cost on that time. And maybe that's kind of what you're trying to balance, is that, I guess. Have you been receiving complaints about how long it takes to be responsive?
Chair Cole, Councilor Haveman, I think you've got the gist of it there. It is mostly that opportunity cost. It's wait times for people who are requesting, and it's staff time to do that search is what we're losing by not having them indexed. I think it's I have not heard many complaints about the time it takes, but that doesn't mean that there are people who are worried about it. We try to explain what the issue is, and most people are pretty understanding that it will take time.
Sure. And then do you have a sense of how other clerks' offices are in this realm? If you were to benchmark, are we kind of like every clerk's office across the country for a town our size probably is in the same boat, or are we way behind in this?
Chair Cole, Councilor Hampman, I think in some ways we're ahead. I know, I've spoken to, I don't know about nationally, but I have spoken to other clerks in the state, and some of the smaller counties have yet to digitize all of their microfiche. There was one county who, was their microfiche reader recently broke, and they were having trouble finding a replacement for it. I think in some ways we're ahead of the curve in that we have done the digitization, and I think we're probably ahead of the curve in trying to get that indexing updated as well. It is technically we have an index. It's just the old style index where you have to go page by page, and if you know the date that something happened, it becomes much easier. If you know the grantor or the grantee, it becomes easier, but it isn't easy if you are looking by the legal description. And so it's just one of these things of how do we make things more efficient and easier for our citizens to get these records.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilor Hammond. Councilor Ray, did you?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Clerk Redondo. So we'd had a citizen was concerned about the ease of getting records, so I thought we might as well have a little discussion about that. So I think the history on this is that, as you indicated, that the office, before you became clerk, had done a lot of work to get us ready for electronic requests so that people wouldn't have to come in and stand in line, hand someone a sheet of paper. They would stop what they're doing and go get the records, basically. I probably wasn't quite that way, but basically like that, right? So, and I think that the concern was that these are records that the state has said that people need to see, and obviously some of the descriptions you've given, we would understand, that there are parties that would have interest in knowing whether or not you have any liens on your property and all that kind of thing. So, and I think we didn't have any, and it's kind of broadly related to the IPRA, although tangentially, right? So there were no changes to anything that's considered public record or any redactions that, people have said, I'd like to have my records redacted. So just wondering if you could comment on the process and where we are with regards to records that are public in the state. And I appreciate you saying that I think we're probably well above the curve for most counties, right, in terms of accessibility records now. So just if you could comment on some of those things, appreciate it.
Certainly. Chair Cole, Councilor Righty, I think you're correct in saying we were definitely ahead of the curve. The records, any record that is recorded with the county clerk is a public record, and it is should be available for inspection by anyone who wants to come in and see it. And so we're required by law, anyone who comes in, we're required to show it to them. There was some concern regarding the fact that we're making it easier by putting these records online. I also have heard these complaints. The concern is regarding potential fraud. If you make it easier for a fraudster to get your record, then it potentially makes it easier for them to commit fraud. That was the concern I heard. I don't know, I'll be honest, our system is such that it's not particularly easy to find things. It's certainly easier than having to come into the office and request and wait. But it's not something where you have to know what you're looking for when you're doing it. And yes, it could potentially make it, by making it available, it could potentially make it easier for someone in Nigeria to get the information and use that to commit fraud. I would have to balance that risk with the ease that it allows investors to find the information to make a decision about whether they want to invest in our town, for members of the community to find the things that they're looking for. This is a community where a lot of people only stay for a certain period of time, often to work, and that leave. So a lot of our requests are from people all over the country who lived here for some period of time or whose family lived here, and so making these things available so that they don't have to fly here from Maryland, I think, is an important thing. So I know it is a concern. We do have there is a fraud guard system you can sign up for. I don't know that it solves all of the concerns. It certainly, basically all it does is notifies you when someone files a document that has your name as the grantor. So it would potentially protect against someone trying to sell your house without you knowing it, but doesn't do a whole lot more than that. It's that is one of those things. It is a balance. I could make it harder for you to get these public records, but it would be illegal for me to make it impossible. And my preference is to make it as easy as possible so that we're as transparent and as reactive to the desires of the community as possible.
So I guess I've heard the comments you made about the option for it sounds like that isn't there could be a contract let for that amount of money, but it may not lead to digitizing providing access to all the records that are digitized. Is that correct?
Chair Call, Councilor Reddy, could you clarify what you're saying there? It's
to have the access so that they're properly cross-referenced so that if you knew any of the pieces of information that it's indexed on, like people might know the address or legal description, but they may not know the names or the dates.
Correct. Yeah. So as it is now, the historical documents that we have not indexed, all they are searchable by on the online database is the document number or the book and page. Yeah. And most of these documents are from 2005 and earlier. The majority of them actually, so there's a sporadic documents from 2001 to 2005. The majority of all documents that were recorded prior to 2001 are in this group. So it's documents that are 20 years old or older. In a lot of cases, the person that was listed as the owner of a deed is no longer that one. That being said, there are plenty of people who've been in their same home for 40 years in this town. So it would be a number of people. All of those types of documents that were recorded after 2006 are searchable by these parameters online. So we're only talking about increasing that for the older documents. But as you said, if you know the grantor, the grantee, or the the legal description, then you can conceivably look up that information and get those kinds of information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Reddy. Other questions from counselors? I do have a question. I don't think I heard you say how long it would take if we contracted the work out, or what
Chair,
we would expect. Let me put it that
Chair
way.
Cole. So looking at the RFP responses we got, one of the responses suggested that it might take, one of the more affordable ones suggested it might take them as long as 5 years. The rest of them were looking at like 2 to, potentially shorter. But my suspicion is if you want it done in under a year, it's going to be the higher numbers.
Okay. And did you look at an option of possibly doing it in-house, but with additional casual employees
That, I
or students? We got
Chair,
students that love database stuff now.
Chair Cole. So we have started doing it in-house. Our student clerks have, one of them has started doing this project specifically, and is probably one of the faster members of our staff at it. Probably not the most accurate. It requires some verification on the back end to check the work, but if we were to increase the number of casuals, I think we could bring. Right now, what we're doing is I'm estimating at 10 years. If we have a single 20-hour casual working just on this, I think we could bring that down to 5 years. And conceivably less if we had more.
And the cost of a casual employee at 20 hours a year for the year?
Off the top of my head, I think that is around $60,000. I should have that here. So if I look.
That's probably close.
I believe it's in that realm. So, guessing 20 hours, $20 an hour, 20 hours a week, 52 weeks, plus benefits, it's going to be roughly around that.
So you could even hire 2 casuals potentially for about $120K.
Potentially.
Okay. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Any other questions from counselors? All right, do we have any comments from the public on this item? I don't see anybody in the room. Is there anyone online, Ms. Madison?
If you'd like to make public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Thank you. So I don't know if, I'll see what motion counselors want to make. You can include the budget option in the motion online, and then we'll see if we have a counselor that wants to support it that, or read it that way, or if they want to exclude the and budget option item. Counselor Righty?
Thank you, Chair. I move the council tentatively approve the proposed budget for the county clerk in the amount of $1,333,520.
Is there a second?
Second.
So a motion from Counselor Righty and a second from Counselor Neil Clinton. The motion that's written here is without the budget option. Any discussion? Yes, Counselor Hand?
So, based on the question that you just asked about casual employees and looking at overall rates, it looks like we could cut the budget in half if we went with 2 casuals. Is this something that we want to put in the parking lot for later to discuss?
We have a motion, but, so we would need to either vote on the motion or retract the motion, in order to, well, this is a tentative approval.
Yeah. So Chair, I think that
Yeah.
if we wanted to have the clerk come back with,
Yeah.
and he could come back at a later date, doesn't have to do it right now, but he could look at it, because I think it wasn't clear that it was a must-have right now, but he's got some feedback on options, and he could certainly add a person, 2 people, whatever makes sense to try to work through that backlog in the most efficient way possible. It doesn't seem like the money allocated would necessarily take care of the whole problem. So that's why I just made the motion without the budget option, and we could,
Consider that at a future date.
yeah, I think that would be,
Doesn't necessarily have to be as part of the budget.
yeah, I don't think that, I'm not opposed to doing it, and I just think you might as well come up with a plan and do it, maybe all at once, or if it's gonna take years anyway for a contract, that's why when I heard some of the details, it was not, I like the concept of doing it, but I wasn't sure this was the right year, right moment to be approving the budget option. Thank you.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Well, so it sounds like basically we're just eliminating that budget option.
For this fiscal
Motion.
year?
Yeah, for this fiscal year. And he's talking about, 5 years potentially to complete this work. I mean, if we just keep on pushing it out, it's not gonna help him.
Well, we could vote on this, or you want to call the vote, or do you want to?
Chair, we can
No.
have another motion, so call one vote and then.
That's true.
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion on this motion? All right, let's have a roll call on this motion.
Counselor Haveman,
Yes.
Counselor Rowdy,
Yes.
Counselor Hand,
No,
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Rigor,
Yes.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
So let the record show that the motion passes 6-1 with Counselor Hand opposed.
just had a comment that the reason why I opposed it is because I still think that we need to have a budget option,
Okay.
county clerk's office, and it
Thank you,
sounds like
Counselor Redondo.
we're not gonna have that.
Mr. Redondo.
But you can put it in the parking lot.
Can we put it in the parking lot?
Okay.
Make a motion.
Okay. I move that we put the county clerk budget option in the parking lot for further discussion and consideration.
You don't need to put it.
I don't know that you need, we can put it in,
Put it in the parking lot.
yeah, that's
Okay.
true. We don't need a motion. So we can have further discussion on it tomorrow.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
All righty, thank you. So next up is County Sheriff. I believe Chief Scamalone's going to be presenting.
Good evening, Madam Chair, councilors. I believe the sheriff had a family emergency, so I offered to step in. Police department does assist the sheriff in certain operational needs that he has with respect to his sex offender registry, and also my office manager is his, doubles as his administrative assistant. The budget is pretty straightforward. As indicated on the slide, we currently have 6 registered sex offenders, which he monitors and does their registry on a, I think it's a quarterly basis for most. This past year, we did assist him with some compliance checks. And again, that's his operation where they're just more really for safety. Could you go to the next slide? So that just tracks his the type of sex offender on the registry currently. That does change from time to time. Next slide, please. And then in terms of actual budget, it's pretty straightforward. I believe that's within the 3%, and really it's just some salary and benefits, and then there is some training and some office supplies and the like. And it's really pretty straightforward, but I'll try to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions from counselors? Okay, do we have any public comment on this item? Is there anyone online, Ms. Madison?
If you'd like to make public comment, please use the raise hand function. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
All right, is there a motion that a counselor would like to make? Counselor Herman?
I move that council tentatively approve the proposed budget for the county sheriff in the amount of $17,762.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Counselor Herman and a second from Counselor Hand to approve the county sheriff's budget as presented. Any discussion? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Rigor,
Yes.
Counselor Hand,
Yes.
Counselor Haveman,
Yes.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Counselor Righty.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Chief. Let the record show the motion passes unanimously. All right, next up is municipal court. Do we have anyone here to present for municipal court?
Judge Allen is online.
Online. Oh, there she is. I don't know why I wasn't looking at my screen.
Good evening, Chair Cole and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to present on Zoom today. I am stuck in Albuquerque at a mandatory municipal judge conference. As we bring forward our proposed budget, I want to emphasize that our court's work is deeply rooted in our commitment to the access to justice. We continue to prioritize meeting people where they are, offering both in-person and virtual appearance options, ensuring ADA accommodations, and providing meaningful language access. These are not just logistical choices. They are value-based commitments that reflect our dedication to an equitable access for all who come before the court. Our budget also supports expanded efforts in pretrial services, particularly the use of risk and needs assessments. This approach helps the court make informed, fair decisions while identifying the resources individuals need to avoid deeper system involvement. We're not just reacting, we're working proactively with community partners to identify service gaps and ensure that people receive support, not just supervision. Community engagement is also a cornerstone of our work. As I've learned through the pillars of judicial excellence, being a citizen of the court community means being active, visible, and responsive to those we serve. That's why we collaborate regularly with schools, nonprofits, health providers, and local agencies. Programs like Hawk Hangout are part of that outreach, creating safe spaces and caring adults for our youth. We also participate in the Youth Summit, where over 100 students learned life-saving information about drug overdose prevention. Teen Court continues to be one of our most impactful initiatives. This past year, 112 youth completed the program, supported by 60 dedicated volunteers who are gaining critical skills in public speaking, empathy, and leadership. A few weeks ago, we even had an event called Ask a Cop because we didn't have any active cases. Usually not a lot of teens show up for this activity, and we had over 25 kids who showed up. We didn't even have enough chairs for them. This is reflective of the culture of teen court, that it is a great space for teens to gather. These are just not numbers, they represent lives changed, futures redirected, and community connection. In short, this budget is not just a financial document, it's a reflection of our community's values with quality governance, quality of life, and operational excellence at the forefront. We're proud of the progress and the work that we do as the municipal court, and with your support, we're ready to continue this important work. We thank you for your time and your consideration, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Any counselors have questions for Judge Allen? Are there any public comments on this item? Anyone online, Ms. Madison?
If you'd like to make public comment, please use the raise hand function. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Alrighty, thank you. Do we have a counselor willing to make a motion? Go ahead, Counselor Hand.
I move that council tentatively approve the proposed budget for the county municipal court in the amount of $909,443.
Is there a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Counselor Hand and a second by Counselor Herman to approve the municipal court budget as presented. Any discussion? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Haveman,
Yes.
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Rigor,
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Counselor Righty,
Yes.
Counselor Hand.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Judge Allen. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. All right, moving on to probate. You gonna do this one too, Mr. Redondo?
Chair Call, counselors. I know that Judge Claire had wanted to be here tonight to present to you. I don't know what happened, but as clerk of the probate court, I am prepared to present on his behalf.
Thank you.
As you probably know, the probate court is going to be the smallest number you see tonight. The probate court continues to provide important services. The estate probate and wedding ceremonies are the two big things that are done there. The salary has not changed since you last saw the budget and the time before that, and the time, no, it did go up. So in the last two times, the salaries remained flat. There was a small decrease due to some benefit selections. The rest of the budget is increased only about 3%. Most of the rest of the budget is training related. Next slide, please. The probate court responds to a lot of things that aren't, people are always asking questions of the probate judge. That's something that the probate judge is responsive to that, and we continue to offer the probate services. A lot of the administrative side of things actually falls under the clerk's budget, most of those hidden costs, filing and all that stuff goes under the clerk's. Next slide, please. And here's the huge number we're asking of you. If you have any questions, I stand for them.
Any questions? Counselor Reddy?
Not really a question, probably more of a comment about the salary. I think that is, with the change to the Constitution, I believe that the county can now look at salaries for elected officials, and this one strikes me as being the very lowest. And as we heard with the number of people over 65 when we were talking about the cemetery, so I think that probably makes sense to make sure we have adequately compensated probate judge.
Thank you, Counselor Reddy. Other questions? from your experience, Mr. Redondo, how many hours approximately? Is it a full-time job, half-time?
Chair call, counselors. So it's certainly not a full-time job. The salary, it's listed as a part-time job, under state statute. In my experience, having been the probate judge, it depends on the level of service you want to offer. In I can certainly see doing less work than I did, but if you want a probate judge that is responsive and gives the level of service that people expect in this county, the hours it varied. There were weeks where I had to put in 20 hours, and there were weeks when I put in none. My guess on the average was somewhere in the realm of 6 to 8 hours per week, which seems low, but when you look at the fact that the salary is $4,666 a year, in my case, I calculated it out, and I was earning somewhere in the realm of $7 an hour. So I, as a former probate judge, would certainly advocate for that salary being raised. I think it's important to compensate a probate judge, and when I ran unopposed. I think it's important to have competition in elections, and I think you can encourage that by paying a salary that makes sense. That being said, I suspect some people may prefer, rather than an increase in salary, an increase in benefits. Being part-time, the probate judge is not eligible for the same kind of benefits that a full-time employee would be. So that might be another way to encourage, recruit, and retain probate judges. I will also point out that in the 4.5 years that I was probate judge, I was probate judge for a longer period of time than the two previous probate judges before me. There has historically been a high turnover in that position. So,
Thank you for that information. I appreciate it. Are there any public comments on this item? Anyone online, Ms. Madison?
Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised online.
Thank you. We have a counselor willing to make a motion. Counselor Hand?
I move that council tentatively approve the proposed budget for the county probate court in the amount of $8,496.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Counselor Hand and a second by Counselor Neil Clinton to approve the budget for probate as presented. Any discussion? All right. Can we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Neil Clinton.
Yes.
Counselor Hand.
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Counselor Wrighty.
Yes.
Counselor Rigor.
Yes.
Counselor Haveman.
Yes.
Counselor Cole.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Let the record show the motion passed unanimously. All right, we are moving on to Fire Department.
Good evening, Madam Chair, councilors. My name is Wendy Servia, Deputy Fire Chief, and I oversee operations. And I'll cover a few highlights of the budget year. And then in a minute, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Javier Anderson, who is our administrative manager who does a lot of hats. He wears a lot of hats. He covers the finance and budget of the fire department, CA billing, and multiple things. So he can answer the nuts and bolts of any financial questions that you have. So for this year, we had some major accomplishments for our active shooter program. We actually stood it up again and made some changes in our training program. We rolled it out to all of our personnel. We used to have it just for a few teams, but the thing is about, unfortunately, if one of these happen in our community, we don't know who's going to be on duty. We can't assemble that team very fast. So all of our responders have basic training now up to a certain level. And not only that, quite a bit of budget was allocated to vests and helmets, protective equipment that ride on all of our engines now, and our medics. So we are responsive to the needs of what's going on, what we see every day, unfortunately, in the world. Not only that, we took this training and we partnered with LAPD and the security force of Lanel. So all of our people are ready to respond congruently together in case we have an event like this on either Lanel or the county side. Our ISO Insurance Services Organization, that's our rating for our fire department. It was rated as a 1, and we made all those training requirements for the year. That's quite a heavy lift for the fire department. We're used to doing that because we have a record of meeting that rating, which is the highest rating that you can get for ISO. We had progress on company officer training. We realized that our fire department is becoming a younger force, so to speak, not only in age, but in experience for our force. So we're actually developing more company officer training because we find that our personnel are promoting fast. The Wildland Division is always an important division within our department. We deployed quite a bit last year for us. We went to the Palisades fire, some local fires. But also I'm going to have Javier Anderson address anything. We have a new initiative that started last year, which was the mitigation project that we're planning, where we have special areas in the community that we're working on. And also we're doing more home assessments in the community to try to mitigate and try to get public information out how important this initiative is for not only community, but just what's going on in the nation and our environment. Water supply, we always look at this. We hydrant tested and inspectioned all of our hydrants, both on the county and Lanel side. And also Station 4, the new Station 4 began the replacement. And we worked on the design and the site study and some planning and zoning things. It is on the project. The capital improvements projects for this year. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Javier Anderson to talk about the budget and also the mitigation project a little bit.
Chair Cole, councilors, what you have before you today on our budget is part of a 10-year cooperative agreement. All of the amounts that are in the budget are trued up to the cooperative agreement, and same with our other direct costs. So those are the two pieces. One of the things that we wanted to do, you guys will see a little bit of movement from division to division. So we wanted to talk a little bit about get to that process today. So next slide. So we have, and where you guys will see this is the large piece of what the fire department operates is the fire department cooperative agreement. That's our large fund. And then we have underneath that child and grandchild budgets. We budget down to the grandchild budget level. Next slide. And you'll see all of these programs, while we may have needs that may move from program to program, they may alter that division budget. So that's why you see a little bit of movement between that divisional budget and why we see such large movements, because we're doing program-based budgeting that meets the needs of the fire department year to year. And some of those other pieces where we have mitigation and where we have the fire marshal fund, those are separate funds that are outside of the cooperative agreement. So I know one of Councilor Reedy's large initiative would be that mitigation. We just started that, putting some dollars on the ground. Next year, we hope to have some cost per acres and acres that were actually treated for you guys. Next slide. So just to kind of reiterate that program budget, each program develops their budget. They come to a formal meeting with the chief, the deputy chief, and the budget manager. Once all of the programs have gone before the chief, deputy chief, and the budget folks, we kind of all come back together. Anything that had a large ask or that we could meet within our program budgets, we will move money around to see where we need to meet those needs for that for the department for that year. We finalize that, true it up to the cooperative agreement contract amounts, and what you have before you is, next slide. Actually, apologize. One last piece on the accreditation side, we are meeting our response times at the 91st percentile for the last year. We do continue to meet our public education contact within the year, and we're also meeting our EMS response time at the 94th percentile. So without further ado, we'll stand for any questions that you might have on our budget.
Thank you. Questions from councilors? Councilor Righty?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the information and for the progress we're making on mitigation efforts. Really like to hear that. I did have something in the budget that I was, so I think it's looking at the general fund revenue detail. And we have page 320, there's interdepartmental charges. There's a couple of rows for fire. And I was trying to, and obviously that's an inflow, so that's a fund, so interdepartmental charges are coming into the general fund. So I was trying to figure out the numbers there compared to the numbers that are in your rolled up budget that are, I don't think that maybe that, so they must not be the same thing. So you have something in the budget that we just looked at on the screen, interfund charges, which are substantially more than what we see in the interdepartmental charges on page 320. And just wondered if there is a simple explanation for the difference between those numbers.
I know our interdepartmental charges are the 26% on the top that is charged back to each one of the departments that supports the fire department. Examples are human resources, public works, any of those other shared services in information management, another large one, that come back in to support the fire department. We true that up every year at that 26th percentile. So that's one piece of that, what you're calling indirect charges.
Yeah.
In addition to that, there's also a shared piece. So we have a 26% share, which we also have to divide all of those pieces by.
Okay, so it's those two pieces together that are what's on the roll-up.
Yes.
That's why it's different than the other number. Okay. And then it's good to hear about the Fire Station 4. So I guess we're looking at the, might as well ask about so Fire Station 6, I think, is pushed out for a couple of years. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I'm in the wrong, oh, this is the right page. Public, so it's under Public Works. So, and the numbers that are on there for Fire Station 6 are, so it's 1 plus 5 plus 5, right? So it's 11 total. Is that right? Does that sound right?
Madam Chair, Councilor Righty, that's correct. And certainly with those types of projects too, we do try to seek other supplemental funding when available from the state or others.
But it's been pushed out because of the GRT, because it used to be, and the price was less.
Absolutely. We're starting to see incremental costs both on the lab side and on the non-lab side for construction.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilor Righty. Other questions? Are there any public comments on this item? I don't see anybody in the room. Ms. Madison, is there anyone online?
If you'd like to put public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
All right. Is there a councilor that would like to make a motion?
I move that council tentatively approve the proposed budget for the fire department in the amount of $56,472,166.
I'll second.
A second from Counselor Righty. So we have a motion from Counselor Neil Clinton and a second from Counselor Righty. Is there any discussion? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Righty,
Yes.
Counselor Rigor,
Yes.
Counselor Hand. Counselor
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't have my microphone on.
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Haveman,
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, let the record
Thank you.
show that motion passed 7-0. And thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. All right, next on the agenda is the Police Department.
Good evening, Madam Chair, councilors. I'd like to start off by thanking the finance team, Helen and Erica and Yvette and Melissa and their entire team who do an exceptional job each year in helping departments to put together to meet guidance while developing a budget that will help us to meet expectations. In my own office, Desiree Miranda does an exceptional job, as she did again this year, and really helping us put together this budget. In this first slide, I wanted to highlight the importance that we put on training and professional development and succession planning within the department. In the first bullet point, we highlight bringing in Navy Captain Michael Abrashoff, who wrote It's Your Ship, and he was able to give us his perspectives on leadership and personal accountability. And in the fourth bullet there, we highlight a certification received by our Deputy Emergency Manager. As a smaller department, we not only have to train and maintain certification on a multitude of topics critical to our operations, but we also train and maintain certification on a multitude of specialties to maintain our operational capacity. So one employee will many times wear multiple hats. As I previously indicated a couple weeks ago, by 2029, 31 current employees will be eligible for retirement. So as a smaller department, it is incumbent on us to maintain our focus on retention and recruitment efforts, particularly given the length of time it takes to train and certify new employees. We have traditionally hired a combination of both new employees and lateral employees. As to the second and third bullet points, it remains important for us to be strong supporters of Special Olympics. Officer Cindy Garcia, who's your security tonight, is our liaison and does an excellent job with that program. And we want to build and maintain our trust within the community as we did with developing our Citizens Academy. We'll be holding our second academy this year, and we will continue our other programmatic efforts, particularly with respect to our youth. Next slide, please. Our budget is designed to support all of these efforts, which are a direct result of council strategic planning, community expectations, and our own recognition of patterns and trends, and how we will direct our resources to best respond to interrupting these patterns and trends as they relate to crime and public safety. We maintain our national accreditation, recently passed our latest inspection at 100% compliance of inspected standards. When we held our discussion a couple weeks ago on the ordinances, Mr. Courtwright talked about wanting to see an officer more often at his storage facilities at night. And I agree. And I would like for you to consider for a moment what it is like to try and meet community expectations on multiple fronts with limited resources. Do we focus on buildings at night, youth programming, homelessness, substance abuse, mental health, traffic? No matter where we direct our resources, to some degree, another focus will be lacking. So taking this all together and understanding the community's concerns about traffic safety and understanding our strategic planning as it relates to quality of life, I've developed these budget options to increase our ability to focus on traffic safety through the use of speed cameras and additional staff. While patrol does do traffic safety, if they're at the bottom of the hill running a traffic detail, they have to peel off whenever they get a call for service. By comparison, a traffic unit would not only be able to implement and manage a speed camera program, but focus their attention on traffic enforcement, traffic accidents, community education, parking enforcement, and any future initiative designed to enhance traffic safety. It is a solution that would allow us to focus on an issue of great community concern and do so in a way that we are currently not able to do. If we're not able to fund a traffic unit, it is unlikely we'd be able to effectively implement and manage a speed camera program. With respect to the sworn officer per capita discussion we had a couple weeks ago that I had written a multi-year plan back in 2022, which is still applicable today. And in that plan I wrote, while it is common to evaluate sworn staffing rates as a measure per capita, it is equally worthwhile to evaluate, to the degree possible, discretionary patrol time, investigative capacity, workload assessment to include specialty programming such as school resource officers, community programming efforts, geography including how isolated a community is and the timeliness of mutual aid requests, special resources and response protocols to resources such as schools and national laboratories, threat assessment to include natural and man-made disasters, community expectations, minimum staffing and relief factors to ensure individual officer and community safety. I would add that as it relates to traffic safety, the amount of commuter traffic a community must manage is also a significant consideration. Next slide, please. As for the budget itself, we are up 8%, although the significant contributor to that includes salary and benefit costs, some of which are contractual. Also, IDC costs. We did have some contractual increases, but did make cuts where we could, and move funding to and from certain line items to better track actual costs. Our FTE count includes 2 temporary employees we are utilizing to support our dispatch center until we can hire to become fully staffed. We currently have 10 vacancies department-wide. Next slide, please. These budget options represent what I feel is necessary to implement and manage a speed camera program, and at the same time, provide focused resources within the traffic unit to better address traffic safety and education as a whole. In preparation for today's hearing, I asked Commander Ross to deploy a speed sign on the truck route so that we would have some updated data. I provided you all a copy of that, and there are copies in the back for anybody that's here, and I believe we're going to put that up. Everybody online. So this camera was set up on the truck route, westbound or uphill, near the S-curves by the entrance to the Lance facility. It was set there from April 11th to April 20th, which includes, there are only 4 work days because of weekends and Good Friday. During that time, 23,938 vehicles passed the sign. For context, I do want to say this type of sign isn't as technologically advanced as let's say, a speed camera system would be. So there are some limitations. There's two primary limitations. Number one, if there are two vehicles traveling side by side, this system will probably only pick up one, which means this number is actually lower than probably the reality. And two, it tracks when you enter the radar cone, which is probably 200 feet, but the speed that it logs is at the very end when you're closest to the sign. What that shows is that 42% of those cars, from the time they entered the radar cone to the time they hit the sign, slowed down. So actually these numbers are on the low end by 42%. You'll note that 580 vehicles exceeded the speed limit by at least 11 miles an hour. This included 10 between 81 and 85 miles an hour and 4 between 86 and 90 miles an hour. That's in this area of the S-curves. All speeders, meaning 56 miles an hour or over, were an additional 8,313 vehicles, or 35%, so almost a third. And then as you traverse the S-curves, you'll note that there are what's referred to as safety signage, the yellow arrow signs that say 45. That 45 mile an hour speed limit is not enforceable, but it is a recommended safety speed because of the S-curves. If we evaluate this data with respect to the safety signage, 21,415 vehicles, or 89%, exceeded this. And then one last thing I would like to mention, particularly about the truck route. It's hard for officers to sit on the truck route. And if they do, it's hard for them to get out on a vehicle if they see a violator during peak hours because there's too much traffic. And if they are able to do that, it's dangerous for them and potentially the operator of the vehicle because of all the traffic. And unfortunately, we see officers seriously injured and killed by people running into them on car stops. So another reason why speed cameras, particularly along that area, would be effective and safer. And of course, as I previously indicated, although there is a cost associated with implementing this program, it's to some degree, as yet unknown, it would be offset by revenues associated with this program. I strongly request your consideration of approving these budget options to allow us to enhance our resources to be able to effectively address traffic safety. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Chief. Are there questions from councilors? Councilor Hand?
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate the presentation. And I do have a couple of questions related to the budget options. So basically, the way that you are proposing the 3 items in your budget options is you have 2 items that are for staffing, which you alluded to, and this basically supports your speed camera program, but that they would be able to do other things. Do you believe that all 3 of these items are dependent on each other? Could you remove the speed camera item and still have the other 2 for staffing?
Madam Chair, Councilor, yes. I mean, you could always. I mean, you couldn't eliminate. If you approve the officers, they would need a unit. But other than that combination, I suppose you could eliminate a portion of that. But not without effectiveness and safety.
Okay, thank you. So when we're looking at the study that you did on speeding around the Lance facility, who would end up getting tickets based on this study? How many people would end up getting tickets? Because based on our discussion during the ordinance, we were talking about that every ticket is going to be $100. It's going to be mailed to the people and or violators, and that this could be for somebody who's going 1 to 5 miles per hour over the speed limit.
No, you can set that to what you want. Typically, it's 11 over from what the other communities are doing in New Mexico.
Okay.
But if you were in a school zone, for example, you may set that at 5. You can set it at whatever you want. So in this data set, 580 vehicles would be receiving a citation.
580. So where do you get that number?
So that is a combination of, on the bottom of the page that's on the presentation, 427 vehicles traveled between, I'm sorry, that's not accurate. It would be 153 vehicles, which is a combination of 66 and over. Which is 11 or over. So you had, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I was right. It's 580. Right. It is 580. I'm sorry. So it's all of those added up to the right of that number, and the number to the left of that, 1,853 vehicles, were traveling between 61 and 65. But again, if you consider that 42% of those slowed in that 200-foot space, a portion of those would probably have exceeded that amount and would be caught on a technologically superior system.
Okay.
So at least 580.
Okay.
Now, I would anticipate a couple things. I would anticipate that naturally we wouldn't get this volume once people knew that they were there, and that's what we want. And then I would also anticipate other people may choose to take a different route to avoid them. So we'll have strategies for that in place.
Okay. So my next question is just basically where you would plan to install these cameras. Is it basically the areas that you know are already problematic, that you have some serious accidents due to speeding, you have ongoing issues with speeding, that sort of thing, or is it going to be just random across the county? And how are people going to know where these cameras are? Maybe you don't want them to know where the cameras are, but I'm just wondering what your strategy is.
Madam Chair, Councilor Hand, so I think there are 3 factors to determine location. One is clearly database. Where are the accidents? Where is the speeding occurring? The second is meeting with DOE and LANL. The truck route, for example, is just an area that is it's not only supported by the data, but it's just very hard for us to safely enforce in that area. So I would want a fixed system there. And then mobile solutions would be data-based and also community-based. As I indicated a couple weeks ago, we know that the road with the highest amount of accidents, for example, is Diamond. So we would put these on Diamond. We would put these in neighborhoods where people were complaining of speeders. So it would be a combination of those three things with the use of both fixed and mobile solutions.
Okay. I guess my overall concern, you know, I know we have had numerous presentations on, you know, the accidents that have occurred, the speeding problems that continue to go on, and, you know, I want to be supportive, you know, of our safety concerns, but at the same time, you know, I worry about having a program like this that ends up just creating a lot of resentment within the community against the police, against the county, just because they don't like getting tickets, $100 tickets mailed to them. And, you know, I think we really need to look for solutions that are going to be effective for controlling people's speed. And is this the answer? You know, and what are the repercussions for implementing a program like this? Because I think there will be people that will be upset about this. So
Sure. I think last year we wrote approximately 2,500 tickets. Our community survey results are always in the high 90s with respect to people feel safe in the community. And if you ask people, it's not crime that we have a crime tip submission. You can get online, tell us about what's going on. We get more traffic related submissions on that than we do on anything criminal related. So sure, there's going to be people that nobody likes to get a citation, but you can either make the conscious effort, not knowing where a sign might or a speed camera might be. You might make a conscious effort to just do the speed limit, or take your chances. Every driver does it.
So I'm just wondering, like when somebody is mailed a ticket, it's probably going to say on this particular day at this particular time, we caught you going this particular speed, which is so much over $100. You gotta pay. What happens if they don't pay?
Well, there's a link in that letter that you can get on and see the video of your car. And also your car back end on the license, you can see your license plate. Between Albuquerque and Rio Rancho, between 45 to 60% pay it automatically, and about 20% pay it after the hearing. And then the other 20%, again, there are certain options that are available. It would be really in just further discussions with the county manager in terms of, do we want a collections notice or other options internal to, and I when I say this, I recognize all of our commuters are not all Landowners DOE employees. We certainly have many county employees, many school, hospital, but you know, they may have their own internal mechanisms that they use to enhance such a program. I don't know. But my point is, most pay. And again, that revenue could be utilized to support and offset any costs associated with the program moving forward.
So I don't know what the cutoff is. I know that you have to report certain things, like if you have a security clearance over at the lab, you have to report certain things to security, and you know, you're penalized. And I think that has actually increased, you know, that kind of interest to try to motivate people to do better at not speeding, it's increased that, this could affect your job, if you get caught speeding. That's the other thing that I'm concerned about is that are we doing the right thing by implementing a program like this? What are the other repercussions that are going to happen to people? Is it enough for people to say, I got speeding, I was really trying to get to this meeting, or, I had to be on site for this important event, et cetera, and I got caught speeding. Now they're going to take away my security clearance, or I'm on notice. It's not worth even living here. I'm going to move. I'm going to go find another job. I mean, that's,
A lot of jobs would.
going to happen, but you never know how people are going to view this. And
A lot of jobs, you could get terminated for DUI and yet people continue to drive drunk.
yeah,
So I believe we're going to have some public comment from a DOE representative, and maybe he can elaborate on some of that. I don't know if that's been worked through or yet, but at the end of the day, just be reasonable. Don't
Slow
speed.
down.
Slow down.
yeah.
I mean, how many significant, serious, life-ending crashes do we need for people to wake up and just decide they'll leave 15 minutes earlier so they don't have to speed to make their appointment on time?
Right. I know there's a lot of emphasis on safety at the laboratory, and this is part of that. That we need to consider even our method of getting to work and leaving.